So at the end of 2017, we had the 400 gigabyte SanDisk micro SD card announced. It was roughly $250 or so, I believe, for pretty much any device that could use it. The Switch would work fine with it because, of course, the Switch does support SDXC that allows up to 2 terabytes of storage to work, so you can put all of your Switch games on it and not have to kind of carry them around, all the cases, or even find a case that can pretty much hold all of the little cartridges, and you got to worry about switching them out. A lot of people right now are opting to go digital with their Switch games because of the portability factor and the idea of having everything built in, and you just pick it in the menu and you go. And that is very compelling for a lot of people. However, having a large enough SD card with more and more games, there are a lot of games that are coming out on the Switch right now, and going through this year into next, it seems like there's going to be a lot more. So there's going to be a lot of space needed on SD cards, and fortunately, the SD card space is picking up heavily with advancements, and we are now getting a 1 terabyte. Yes, that's right, a 1 terabyte micro SD card. It's not going to be cheap. That's first of all. Not going to be cheap. However, there are some nice side effects from a very large SD card coming out that we'll talk about in a minute. But this is actually one from Western Digital. It's a 1 terabyte. And actually, if I scroll down here a bit, you can see it. There it is right there. It's a 1 terabyte SanDisk Extreme SD card. It's a small one that would go in your Switch, or of course you can use it in your cell phone as long as it supports it. And it is a very fast card as well. Now, they've had the Extreme series around for a little bit. You, of course, have a 400 gigabyte card all the way down, I believe, a 64 gigabyte card, and they boast higher speeds. This one, for example, this 1 terabyte is 160 megabytes of read and 90 megabytes write. So yes, it is very, very fast. And I know we've seen some speed tests with the Switch when it comes to that, and they're okay. They're nothing that's like ridiculously fast or anything, and sometimes it's actually faster off the internal storage, but still, to have a very fast card is nice. And of course, this would work fine for recording 4K video, for example, with a DSLR or mirrorless camera or whatnot. So they're set up for more than just the Switch, but I know there's a lot of people looking at this for the Switch. In fact, the headline for this from CNET is, think of all the Nintendo Switch games this baby can hold. The Switch is popular, obviously, so SD cards are growing, which is nice. Now, this one is going to be $450. Again, not cheap. However, if you remember the 400 gigabyte SD card that came out was announced at the end of 2017, I remember it started popping up on Amazon a month or two later. That started at $250, and it has dropped significantly in price, which is one of the nice things about having a card like this exist, or that the older cards that are still good and work great for the Switch have dropped significantly in price. For example, I'll go ahead and show you on Amazon, we have a 400 gigabyte. This is a little bit of a slower card, not like ridiculously slow, obviously 100 megabytes transfer read speed as opposed to 160 megabytes per second. Still very quick though, and that's a 400 gigabyte micro SD card for basically $78 prime ship. It takes like 2 days to get to you, and it's a SanDisk Ultra. Good card, works great. It's actually the one I have right now. I will say that 1 terabyte is very enticing. I'm looking at that myself, but $450 is hard to justify for an SD card. However, I'm sure some people are curious as to how it all works, and of course, it would be something interesting to look at. So you never know. Maybe we'll take a look at it. Maybe I'll see if Western Digital has some that one that I guess they could send out for us to check out. Although it's really just an SD card with more space. You can already get those Extreme cards and test the speeds if you would like. But to see something like a 400 gigabyte card for $78 or even a 256 for $45, although I would personally rather just get the 400 gig because it's what, like $34 more or something, $33 more. So I would opt for that, obviously, and I have. I've picked up one of these back in, as you can see, September. So there you go, 2018. And then we have, of course, our cards here, and this is the entire line of the Extreme series. That's the 1 terabyte and the 512 are currently able to be pre-ordered, and that will be going live, I believe, for sale or shipping in April. So we only have a month and a half, not even, before it comes out, which is nice. There is a 1 terabyte for $450. There's also a 512 gigabyte card for $200. Unfortunately, the way I see it is, while it's faster, of course, there's not enough of an upgrade for me to jump from my 400 gig to that 512 for $200. If I was going to do it, I would rather go straight for the terabyte, obviously, because, that's 2.5 times the space at that point. But I would also think about just waiting for it to drop in price, because consider how fast the 400 gigabyte card dropped down to $78 from $250. That dropped pretty quick. We, less than a year and a half out from when it released, and it dropped significantly in price. Now, the Extreme series is interesting as well because that has also dropped in price. Just as an example, the 400 gigabyte one was about $250. That one's down to $110 now. So these cards do drop. Now, the speed differences is something you'd have to weigh yourself if it's worth the extra, $40 or so. I don't know if it is, just because it would be like literally a second or two difference for the Switch. But to have that price drop is telling. That means that, of course, we'll probably get to a point where we have higher than 1 terabyte SD cards, which would mean that this one would probably drop down into the hundreds, probably, like 150 or something, which is still pretty good for 1 terabyte SD card. And then, of course, this also shows kind of, I guess, how fast we're advancing with the SD cards now with cell phones, which is probably, to be honest, that's probably the biggest driving factor. I know people want it for their Switch, but let's be honest, everyone has a cell phone, and a lot of them do take SD cards. Tablets take them. Cameras use them, obviously. And then we have consumer electronics for gaming, like the Switch, that uses them. So it's good to see this happening, because I remember when the Switch came out, we didn't have very large SD cards for cheap. Now we have them for very cheap. And we, of course, have advancements with space. So this is good news. I think it's something that a lot of people are going to look into. I think 450 and even 200 for the 512 is too much right now for the Switch. But I do see, to be honest, probably by the end of 2019 to see some sales happen. Maybe Black Friday, there is a really cool sale for it, or Cyber Monday, where it could be like 40% off or something. Then you'll have some people really looking at that and saying, okay, $200 or so, $220 gives me 1 terabyte. Maybe I'll actually jump on that, this Christmas and grab one of those, so that I don't have to worry about space in my Switch for a long time. But interesting stuff there. Let me know what you guys think about the SanDisk Extreme micro SD card, 1 terabyte. Again, I think it more represents the advancements on the space for these SD cards rather than just the initial, here's a 1 terabyte, it's $450. And let me know what you think about that. Of course, the Switch is capable of up to 2 terabytes of SD card space, so we're only halfway to its max at this point. And yeah, we probably will get 2 terabyte cards. I'm trying to figure out if it's going to be in the Switch's lifespan. I would like to think it would be like right at the tail end, but of course, we assume that the next Switch would also use these same-ish SD cards going forward. So interesting stuff. Let me know what you guys think about this down below, though. Make sure you like the video. If you liked it, dislike it. If not, make sure you guys are subscribed for all gaming tech-related news and teardowns. We're going to have some fun over the next few weeks with a couple of them. It's going to be cool. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.